The Dragon Ball Budokai and Budokai Tenkaichi games are near and dear to many of us. These games embody an era where video games felt more concerned with the fun factor than being just cinematic. They thrived in a time when couch co-op was king, where going to your friend's place, eating pizza and jamming out, playing things like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Ratchet Gladiator, Halo, Smash Bros, Star Wars Battlefront 2, or dare I say it, Dragon Ball Budokai 3 were a layup for the perfect weekend. So in March 2023, when we heard this series was getting a successor, against our better judgment, we all collectively went ballistic. Desperate to recapture and relive a series we thought was lost to time. All for IGN 10 months later, slap a big 7 out of 10 on there and call it a day.
You can't keep getting away with it!
No, well... Actually, yes, but it is a bit reductive. And, well, their review went about as well as you'd expect. IGN decided to give it the same score as Concord, PlayStation's live service darling. You know, it's just so odd. Concord had an all-time peak player count on Steam of 697 players, while Sparking Zero strangely had 91,000 concurrent players before the game had even released. And in the first 24 hours, Sparking Zero sold over 3 million copies, eclipsing the established records from the recently released Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8. Now, IGN has always been a bit of a mixed bag. For as many good quality reviews they churn out, they produce an equal amount of stinkers. But before we devolve into the standard rhetoric that gamers have echoed for eons, you can't spell ignorant without IGN, ho ho. Let's, you and me, take some time and unpack this review. Just to clarify as well, this isn't a hate piece. I have no intent on just dunking on IGN for the sake of it. We are being thoughtful. And if you like that kind of stuff on YouTube, why don't you go and beam that like button and charge up your key and smash that subscribe button. Please don't leave the video, I'm sorry. Now, I watched IGN's review in full many times. The key points of the critique were archaic menus, rudimentary training tools, and episode battles being more frustrating than they are challenging. Let's start at the top. The critique on the menu system is the most peculiar. He outlines that accessing the customization menu can be cumbersome because it takes you out a menu further when you exit the shop. Look, this may be the case, but to me this is an absolute nothing burger. This isn't a problem at all. I mean, could you imagine working tirelessly to bring out a game just for someone to maybe deduct a point based on a menu? Come on. The menus are aesthetically fantastic and go a long way in giving this game a unique personality. Nothing felt particularly archaic to me. The second critique, detailing the tutorialization of the game, is much more understandable. Nowadays, it's just standardized that modern games give you a walkthrough of all their key concepts in the opening hours of the game, unless it's a Souls-like. But we who play those are a glutton for punishment. However, if you do want to understand all the necessary mechanics in Sparking Zero, you won't find them in the opening tutorial. You'll need to hop into the training arena or just do what I did and just brute force it through trial and error. Consequently though, trying to brute force it, two things happened. First, I had literally no idea how to unlock Sparking episodes. Sparking episodes are an addition to the game that show what-if scenarios if you complete certain objectives. These bonus, mysterious story missions were a mystery to me for actually a really long time. Once you actually discover how to unlock them, it's all rather straightforward, but discovering how to do that is rather obtuse. I mean, the writing is kind of on the wall. When there are over a dozen YouTube videos, some of them with like 100,000 views already, detailing how to unlock Sparking episodes. They could have done a bit better there. Secondly, and this one is super weird, I had no idea transformations were actually a thing in this game. I mean, when you look at the character roster, which, wow, look at that character roster, you'll notice that like all the Gokus are in their own unique specific forms. And playing the story mode, the game naturally transforms you when the story demands it. And to my knowledge, during the story modes, the game never tells you about the transformation mechanic. That's kind of a big deal. It wasn't until I sunk over 15 hours into this game that I realized that I could go from base Super Goku all the way up to the echelons of Super Saiyan Blue. That's kind of unacceptable. So I actually relate to IGN's critique on this part. However, the coolest thing about the Dragon Ball games of old was that constant sense of discovery. As a kid, I literally thought there was like an infinite amount of things to do in these games. Whether it's to do with story, unlockables, character interactions, and finishes, this game echoes that same feeling of discovery. It makes you wonder if the way they designed these tutorials was to remain consistent with that vision. The final critique they made was saying that the episode battles cross that line between challenging and just plain frustrating. Upon the game's release, one of the first points of contention that materialized online was this guy, Great Ape Vegeta.
Am I losing my mind?
He turned into a giant monkey!
Oh, hell no.
He hits hard, is difficult to combo, and his beam is pretty strong. Also, all I do is drag and rush and press square. Why it no worky? However, I personally had no issue moving through the story on regular difficulty and found it to offer a balanced delivery of challenge and fun. The fight I struggled the most with on the main path was with Goku vs Kale and Caulifla. It's a fight that sees you take on both Saiyans back to back. Whilst I didn't find the mainline episodes particularly challenging, the sparking episode unlock conditions were a totally different story. Unlock conditions such as defeat X enemy really fast were controller snappingly challenging, and often devolved into entering sparking mode as soon as possible and combo spamming 20 hits and then smacking them with your ult over and over again. And at times they did push me to the point of just needing to take a break. But we must remember that this only happens in optional content. It's also important to note that some people, myself included, actually really like this type of challenge. There are some other issues that the reviewer took with the game that the comment section cleaned up really nicely. Goten, more like got him. I'm so sorry. As of recording this video, I've currently played about 30 hours of Sparking Zero, and I still feel like there's heaps of stuff for me to uncover and engage with. But as a long-term fan of the series and someone who absolutely loves this game, there are a few pretty glaring flaws that I think no one's talking about. So let's talk about them now. This game is not concerned with being the best game in the world. It's not concerned with being a cinematic masterpiece, grafting a complex story interlaced with thought-provoking characters and narratives. No. This game is about watching this unfold, sitting back in your chair and just going, hell yeah, dude. Oh yes, that's very nice. Adding to all this is the jaw-dropping visuals. Like, I seriously have no idea how they managed to pull this off. They have made this game look almost better than the anime, somehow recapturing Akira Toriyama's aesthetic in a 3D environment. Like, this doesn't look like a brutishly cel-shaded video game. This just looks like Dragon Ball, man. Like, this is like, that's insane. That's insane. Another point worth critiquing is that sometimes less is more. Now, I'm not talking about the roster or the myriad of modes available. I'm talking about the story. This game has 8 story modes, all of which have differing lengths. And while this is ambitious, I think it falls incredibly flat. To me, the weakest element of the game is by far the story presentation. The cinematics consist of 3 types of cutscenes. First, PowerPoint. Second, half-baked, and third, actualized. The most egregious and ergo the most common is the slideshow. It relies on in-engine animations and cycling through pictures, with some VFX sprinkled on top. Half-baked often employs a combination of stilled animations and voice acting, whilst actualized has what looks like pre-rendered footage with full voice acting and is overall much more engaging. And unfortunately, some alternate endings are just slideshows of 2 to 4 sentences of exposition. Kinda makes you wonder if it was worth implementing it at all. In saying this, the game still executes some great cinematic moments, but for the most part, it clearly feels rushed. It's something that I think could have easily been addressed with a more focused scope. I'll take 1 or 2 robust, actualized story modes over 8 patchy narratives any day of the week. Look, I'm super aware that this is gonna sound petty, but this little goblin in my brain looks at all 8 story modes we had and wonders why someone like Broly didn't get one. If the source material isn't there, then just go nuts. Create heaps of sparking episodes, make something different, craft something we've never seen before. Like how they did Gohan Black. Hilariously, if you just look at this gorgeous cover art for 1 sec, you'll notice that everyone has a story mode except him. The dude's literally on the cover. I'm fine. Anyway, I think your mileage may vary, depending on the expectations you bring to the game's narrative. Seeing the game's gargantuan roster and suite of modes, I'd personally anticipated something along the lines of Smash Bros. Ultimate story. So in that respect, I wasn't very disappointed. Where I was disappointed, however, was in the game's approach to characters. With such a wide and diverse range of characters, I was shocked to see how many were automatically unlocked when you first boot up the game. 110 characters out of a staggering 182 are already unlocked from the get-go. This genuinely shocked me and hampered that expectation and anticipation of going on and grinding for all those characters. Additionally, I would add that the price of characters in the shop was curious. Within only an hour or 2 of gameplay, I moseyed on over to the shop, only to find that I actually had enough Zenny to purchase Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. What? Now this is a bit of a nitpick, but I'd also add that the unlocking of characters isn't particularly exciting either. Now I'm not saying you need to make gacha game levels of in-my-face UI vomit, but even a simple bit of confetti or a bigger box showing the character you unlocked would have gone a long way. Most of the time it was completely lost on me that I'd unlocked a new character due to how small the graphic is on screen. Do you see me down here? No, of course you don't. It never made unlocking characters feel like an achievement, which is a real shame because the characters in this game are insanely cool. And look, this is more of a blight on the whole industry, but they even added pre-order bonuses, unlocking the best characters in the game early, fundamentally contradicting what I think makes these games fun. But hey, that's just me. Another thing I'd just like to gush about real quick is the gameplay. Smashing buildings, brawling from the skies to the ocean, teleporting and dashing across the arena at dizzying speeds really sells the raw power of these characters. I mean, comparing the gameplay of this game to its predecessor, it's so clear that the pace of the game has changed. The input speed required of the player really punctuates the incredible speed of the characters battling it out on screen, really adding to my immersion. Everything from the basic combos to the custom grabs to flashy ultimates feels meticulously crafted to such an unthinkable degree. If anything, the biggest praise I think this title deserves is that it always feels in step with its origins. There's a clear, unwavering reverence for the source material, a respect for player expectations, and a commitment to provide a faithful experience. It's a love letter to the fans. So to answer the gnawing question that we've all been waiting for, is Sparking Zero a 7 out of 10? I mean, maybe. To the uninitiated who isn't a fan of Dragon Ball and is just looking to pick up some new game off the shelf, I could see how they might find this game good, not great. Heck, I could even see how they might find this game mediocre. But to the fan of this series, the wish fulfillment of this game goes beyond the limits and makes this game just a truly wonderful time. This game, to me, succeeds in feeling like a celebration of Dragon Ball. And so to that end, regardless of what arbitrary numerical scale we use to quantify its quality, this game will be special to me and has more than earned its place on my shelf. To give it a number, I'm gonna give it 9 out of 10. Excellent gameplay, excellent visuals, too much water. Wait, is this a drama channel now?